I had such fucked up testosterone levels as a kid that I developed bitch tits through puberty, right? I essentially developed like a woman. Now, a couple years after that, after having dedicated my fucking life to optimizing this shit, I have 1,500 nanograms per deciliter, right? So safe to say I have caveman levels. I have barbarian levels testosterone, but I did everything I could, right? I did everything I fucking could to do that. Now, today we're going to talk about the lost art of freezing your balls, also known as applying, very low temperatures on your nutsack, right? Because the thing is, our system, our body, it has this feedback mechanism, right? Our body has a feedback mechanism. Obviously, it likes homeostasis, right? So whenever you decrease your testosterone slightly, acutely, it wants to get it back up, right? So you can actually trick this system. For example, right? What stimulates our testicles to make testosterone is such a thing called luteinizing hormone, right? And there kind of is an inverse relationship between the amount of testosterone that you have and the amount of luteinizing hormone that you have. And you can see this very clearly on my blood results. If you analyze this carefully, you see that my testosterone is through the fucking roof, but my luteinizing hormone, it isn't that high. It's on the lower side. It's inside of the healthy range, so there's no problem, right? It's not like I have got tumors or something, but it's relatively low. And so is my follicle stimulating hormone. Because imagine this is the body, right? We have the brain over here, and we have the nuts over here. There's a nerve which connects the two. And when these things don't produce testosterone, when there's some sort of disturbance, right? It sends the signal to the brain, and that basically stimulates luteinizing hormone, right? It's a hormone which is released in the brain. Now that luteinizing hormone then travels back into the testicles, right? This goes here, plus, this is increased. This travels back into the testicles, and it stimulates the production of testosterone, right? Which leads to more testosterone being produced, right? Now, it turns out that when you put ice on your balls, right? When either through a cold shower and just like targeting the nuts for like 30 seconds to a minute, after the sauna, you can do that. You can do that just throughout the day, right? Whenever you gotta take a shower. In fact, even when you're taking a warm shower before you go to sleep, what you can do is you can just take the shower head, put the cold, and just target the nuts, right? To give that little boost. When you apply cold exposure on your nuts, what you're essentially doing is you're closing down the veins, right? So imagine this is a vein, right? This is a normal vein, and when you put in cold, this constricts, the muscles tense and becomes smaller, which means that less blood is actually flowing through that vein. And what happens? Less blood means less nutrients, means less hormones, means less luteinizing hormone, right? So these things, naturally, they were going to make less testosterone because there's less things available for it to make. When they're cooled, there's less testosterone, less of it is actually, there's less signaling. So what happens? The brain sees that because there's a feedback loop, and it increases luteinizing hormone, right? Remember, what stimulates, there's really two mechanisms to stimulate this. You can shift the homeostasis of the body, right? By increasing cholesterol, by decreasing cortisol, by decreasing inflammation, by decreasing oxidative stress, all these things. Or you can actually increase the pathway through which kisspeptin stimulates, right? Stimulates gonadotropin releasing hormone, right? Stimulated, which then stimulates luteinizing hormone to be produced. That's inside of the brain, everything. And then this thing travels back into the testicles to stimulate this to increase testosterone, right? This is one of the ways. And when testosterone is released, it sends back the feedback loop to put this thing on steroids, right? And you can essentially spike these mechanisms to yield a net decrease, right? You can essentially have usually this is it. You can decrease it slightly to have a bigger increase, and this thing is much greater than this decrease, right? So this is the way it works. So what I want you to do is this. Now, every single day I'm taking cold showers every day. That's like one of the best habits that I've ever invented. I haven't invented, but I've started using it like 2 years ago, and I'm religious. The only time I don't do it is if I'm sick. Put that fucking cold water on your nuts, right? When you're in the sauna and you've done like one session, let's say you're doing 2 sessions, 20 minutes and 15 minutes, right? Let's say you're a little bit more advanced. go into the cold shower and like apply some of that water onto the nuts to cool them off, to like shock the temperatures, to decrease the blood flow, to decrease the nutrients so that it signals back into the brain to increase luteinizing hormone, right? Now, another thing is what you can do is actually use such a thing as an ice pack. Now, you can go buy ice packs, but who the fuck buys ice pack? Like, come on, do you know what I mean? But you can take a plastic bag. It can be, it doesn't have to be, not, you know, it can be plastic because it's not going to be in direct contact with your little nuts, right? You can put in ice cubes in there, which you put some water into that, the fucking silicone thing, boom, boom, boom. You put it inside of the freezer. It freezes, you take it out of the freezer and you put it inside of the plastic and you just put it for 10, 15 minutes on your nuts, right? And this thing will take action. You can even do this 2 or 3 times a day. Do you know what I mean? To get the most benefits. It's basically a tool. It's a tool to do this shit. You know, there's obviously other tools like sunning your balls and stuff, but here we're talking about the lost art of icing them. And let's talk about one more thing before I stop, right? So do you know why your nuts actually hang? Do you know why they're outside of the body? Do you know why they're not inside like the female nuts? I don't know what like females have, but like the thing that makes the baby. The reason is temperature, right? Our body is about 36, 37, about that temperature, right? But the outside temperature is more like 20, right? It can be like 15, sometimes 0. Obviously, then you have clothes on. But like human beings are very comfortable with 20 degrees outside, 25 degrees outside, right? That's significantly less than the 36, 37 degrees of the body. So what evolution did was in humans, lions, everything, right? I don't know if fish have nuts, but basically in mammals, let's say, it essentially made the nuts hang, right? To decrease the temperature. Why? Because the Leydig cells actually work best. So you can actually optimize your life that way as well. You can stop sleeping in underwear. You can just sleep with naked, right? What you can do is you can go commando. I love going commando. I don't always do it, but when you can, go commando, right? And if you can't go commando, buy these loose cotton underwear that don't like actually grab your nuts. They let them hang freely, and that will increase the ventilation. Do you know what I mean? You can do these things. When you go to the sauna, and you know that the sauna has 90-degree weather in the sauna, you can actually bring an extra towel, right? A third towel, and you can put that towel underneath cold water before you enter, and then just like put it on your nuts during the sauna session to keep it cooler. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of things you can do to reduce the damage on the Leydig cells. So that's basically it. The lost art of freezing your nuts to stimulate luteinizing hormone production, to send the signal to stimulate luteinizing hormone production, which then goes back into the testicles once the vasoconstriction has stopped, once they're dilated again, once they return back to normal. Then there's the surge of luteinizing hormone and the testicles like, oh, they're on steroids, they're producing. Do you know what I mean? And who knows, maybe the fact, like when I did the blood test, because I surely did a cold shower before doing that blood test, maybe the fact that I did that cold shower in the morning and the fact that I stimulated my nuts was the reason why it's 1,500. Do you know what I mean? Like, why? Because of this. Because I always do it. I always put the cold on my nuts. I go, and do you know what I mean? Like maybe I went and after 2 hours, boom, 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 this was still kicking. That's tremendous. You can use, 2, 3 times a day, boost your testosterone, and you're on steroids. You have caveman level testosterone. Okay, that's done. Anyways, so for all of you that stayed, first of all, I want you to hit the subscribe button. This is free content you don't get anywhere else. The way I explain things, I don't give a fuck about studies, like, do you know what I mean? I actually tell you on personal experience what I did. I'm the guinea pig, N of 1 experiments. The way I felt, and the fact that I solved this fucking problem. Because most people, they had normal genes. They didn't have to do freezing their nuts, icing them, and putting sun on them, and like cold therapy and all these like trauma therapy and all that shit. I did, because I had the problem. Now, if you want to put that thing on steroids, if you don't want to like just consume, but actually have an individualized system for accomplishing this goal, there's a link below. It's a link to my calendar. I offer a very, very individual plan. I work one-on-one. We essentially create your lifestyle, but you're going to know everything there. It's a 30-minute discovery call. We get to know each other. If we vibe, if if I see that I can help you, then I'm going to make you an offer, right? But that is just simply a discovery call. Book it with me, and yeah, and we'll basically know each other. Anyways, bro. That being said, I'll see you later. Yeah, bye bye.